Artistic data visualizations could be labelled arguably the most interesting and activated contemporary art form. Its contrasted footing against the established art practices, uncontrolled formats of delivery, outward and often interactive reach to audiences of all ages, and its common core for collaboration across a variety of faculties outside the arts supports such claims. Munster notes, quote, "These kinds of projects produce an area of art research into the management of data in contemporary networked cultures. This signals a very different idea and attitude towards both art making and toward the art object. The task of transforming imperceptible information into that which we can perceive is for artists a well-suited task. They are, essentially, the true alchemist, painting emotion into colour, sculpting objects into thoughts, and back again through their audience, a synesthetic feedback loop. Artists who employ data mining as a process in their work are fortunate in that they often instinctively avoid the distraction of an endgame target. This precognition is a common misconception in many situations outside the creative scope where data is mined for visualizations. Jake Porway, founder of DataKind, a collaborative data visualization team from the US, explains that, quote, "A lot of the people who come asking for visualizations want an answer, but so much of the process of digging into data is exploratory that I really think using data visualization should be a process of asking those questions or getting to a point where you can ask questions," unquote. Munster elucidates on the mentality of American net artist Nick Knumpf, that art should reject the commercial agenda and clutch to an unabashed poeticism. To quote Knumpf, "Instead, aesthetics must become non-ideological, non-governed by financial or commercial stakeholders. It must promote spaces where these interests do not dominate," unquote. And it's this unabashed process that I believe really accounts for the interest and excitement generated by the understanding and connection we gain through the reconfigured form of mined data in artistic visualizations. In her article, Munster includes the work of Miak Grigator by Nick Knumpf as an example of data undermining. The website's description explains it in this way. Miak Grigator is a Firefox extension that aggregates information about colleges and universities embedded in the military academic industrial complex. It searches government funding databases, private news sources, private press releases, and public information about the trustees to try and produce a radical cartography of the modern university via the replacement or overlay of this information on academic websites. This is a necessary activity in light of the contemporary financial crisis. Munster summarizes, quote, "Knumpf is referring to both the context in which art finds itself in contemporary culture, a context which is laden with the very serious and urgent issues of a knowledge economy that embeds its knowledge-producing institutions and researchers in more and more tangled relations with the imperatives of military and corporate interests," unquote. For me, this work is really awesome. In a way, it takes on the form of a modern graffiti and playfully engages critically with a clandestine issue that is increasingly obscured by distinguishing itself in the language of the source it's pursuing. What is it without the hand that wields it is not an example featured in Munster's paper, but it's one I'm very fond of. Built in 2008, the work by Richard Harmon is an electronic sculptural installation that uses live data streaming to make a prudent statement about the ease at which we disconnect our real lives from a digital or virtual world through technology. Basically, electronic solenoid valves spit out and drip small amounts of fake blood when someone kills a player in a game of Counter-Strike that is connected to the work from another location in the gallery. The trails left down the wall create a physical manifestation of virtual kills, bridging these two realities. Harmon is taking hold of both worlds and slamming them back together, collecting our digital kill count data and giving it a function, identifying our digital actions and giving them a consequence. In digital gaming, redemption lies within the reset button, and it's therefore incredibly tempting to go nuts and abuse our power. Blood and guts is just data in a fabricated virtual void. but Harman has translated and transformed this information into something physical and visceral that makes us ponder the choices we make in the digital realm. It's often the case as a digital artist that when we begin to decide what data to work with, we're often confronted with the multifaceted value of what that information, and in particular what interests a malleable form of it could generate for a commercial proprietary. On this matter, Munster references the artist and theorist Vito Campanelli. He proclaims, quote, "The alternative to the effects of mass communication is a return to an aesthetic feeling of things, a kind of aesthetics not so much ideological, but rather more active, e.g. Adorno. A kind of aesthetics able to bring again into society and culture feelings of economic unconcern rather than an unconcerned interest. Discretion, moderation, the taste for challenge, witticism and seduction. Aesthetics is exactly this." Unquote. His reference to Theodore Adorno is important here, as it was he who argued that art and the commodity could have no partnership, for when they were joined, the former was destroyed, and the intellect and determination of the human race would be threatened by a blanketing passivity, and be thrust into the dull grind of a culture industry. In essence, be cautious of the waving dollar.